Hey there, Cobalt here, with a new series called Why Songs of War Season 2 Sucks and How Not to Do It in Your Own Stories. These are going to be a little different from the video essays created by other Songs of War enthusiasts such as CK Voltaris. Throughout this series, looking at the Magnorite, Felden and End arcs, I'll be breaking down the biggest problems in these arcs and turning them into key lessons you can take away and do better in your own stories, so that we can all become better writers at the end of it and avoid the mistakes that made Songs of War Season 2 suck so bad. When I first started the Season 2 Magnorite arc, I, probably just like you, was excited to see more Ingy Boy in action, but while I was watching, the arc just failed to captivate me. Nothing about it made a lasting impression aside from Igneous' death. Up until that, it felt like a whole lot of nothing that my brain still instinctively skips on rewatches and rereads to this day. The Magnorite arc is horrifyingly mid, and there are two key reasons why this arc becomes so forgettable. Let's take a deep dive into why the Magnorite arc is a whole lot of meh and how to craft a memorable story. Malachi is such a generic villain, it's actually painful, to the point where he is literally unable to stand up from the crowd and is usually forgotten, even by die-hard superfans like me. He's introduced in a scene so weak, I entirely forgot it while writing this script. He's so innately one-note and similar to other Magnorites that he has no substance to him but a bunch of empty words. Borgen and Maxwell then both shamelessly monologue about him during Season 2, and that's it for his presence over the story until the big ending. And that's super bad. Because at this point, he could literally be anyone. We have nothing that makes him inherently special or memorable. He's a guy who rules with an iron fist, and people are too scared to speak up against him because they might die. Oh, sorry, you thought I was talking about Malachi? No, that's the Joker, because these aspects of a villain are so generic they've been done countless times. The difference is that the Joker isn't just a guy who rules with an iron fist, he's far more than that. And even with that trope being used, Nolan implements a new spin on it that makes it distinct and memorable. People don't fear the Joker simply because he could kill them for stepping out of line, but because he could kill them at any point because he's so unpredictable that unless you know his full plan, you won't be able to understand your place in it until he decides to make that very clear to you.
Why don't we cut you up into little pieces and feed you to your pooches? And then we'll see how loyal a hungry dog really is. It's not about money. It's about sending a message. Everything burns.
And what's more, Joker is effective. We see on screen how terrifying he is, not just have it be talked up to us through other characters. When we finally see Malachi manage to get himself on screen again, the big final fight is upon us. He's facing our hero, and yet he still isn't anything more than generic. He speaks like any other Magnorite. His connection to Igneous is like any other Magnorite, and his beliefs are just like any other Magnorite. There's literally nothing to make him stand up from the pack, making him not a character but a placeholder for every other Magnorite. Which in theory could work, but simply falls flat because Malachi himself becomes nothing engaging. This could be any other Magnorite to be this random final boss, and literally nothing would change. There is no part of Malachi that is inherently special or interesting, and that's why he's forgotten. Even the Necrolord, despite being mostly missing for Season 2, is at least remembered by two distinct quirks: his magical staff, and the fact that he's a Voltaris. Both of these things are memorable because they provide a quirk to a character that's otherwise generic. His staff that mind controls people through whispers is a fun, entertaining gimmick that, while superficial, is at least memorable. If your villain fails to have something that defines them, something unique that makes them stand up from the pack and makes them more than just a flat expression of a common trope, they will simply become noise that fades into the background and is very quickly forgotten. Another big problem with the Magnorite arc is that it feels disposable. Let me explain. The whole point of the Season 2 Magnorite arc is that we are attempting to resolve the Magnorite-Cydonia conflict, which, as detailed by Gallius, could be key to winning the Second Great War. And if we look at the driving plot of their season... Great. Start again. And if we look at the driving plot of season 2, the Death Singer is back. He's going for the primes. The Second Great War might be here, or at least on its way. That, in theory, should lend the Magnorite arc an almost fiery level of stakes and importance. We've been told through Ardoni's position that the main goal of this arc could be paramount to avoiding a repeat of the horror of the First Great War. That is exactly what you want for your subplots, and yet the Magnorite arc fails to have this. And it's all because of one key reason, an inability to commit to the stakes. Until episode 5, there are no stakes other than Gallius's words from last season. Igneous essentially roams, finds a few people who want to get Malachi out of power, and that's it. Despite the fact that this arc was sold as a high-stakes, high-value mission, we start with a bunch of wandering around that sucks all the agency out of the plot. It's like if you ordered a physical copy of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, opened the box, and you got Choo Choo Charles instead. If you were expecting to get Choo Choo Charles in that box, then it would probably be a good experience for you. However, since you were expecting Call of Duty, you're nothing but disappointed. You probably wouldn't even play Choo Choo Charles, despite the fact that it's a good game in its own right. You're more and more likely to hop online and start a desperate Reddit post about how much you want what you expected, not what you got. The analogy is a bit silly, but it's an important lesson to take away for your own stories. Subverting expectations is good, and a powerful tool to create memorability, but only if the subversion elevates what was already present. For example, look at General Hux in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. After spending 2 films essentially being a space Nazi, we reveal with almost no build-up that
I am the spy.
What?
Okay, that's fine, but instead of using this to explore a more nuanced side to Hux's character, instead of making him feel elevated thanks to the subversion, the movie instead decides to make his reasoning boil down to,
I don't care if you win. I need Kylo Ren to lose.
He becomes even more simplistic, his reasoning sounding no better than a toddler's. It diminishes his character just to deliver the subversion and makes him a laughingstock because of it. It would have been better, honestly, if they just kept him as a space Nazi and stuck to the character, because at least that would have been consistent. You should do the exact same thing with your own characters and stakes. Say you have Bob, whose cat gets stolen and held at ransom. Bob then has to chase the kidnapper, who gets Bob to do more increasingly illegal stuff for him, or the cat will die. Bob now has to try and figure out the kidnapper's identity and save his cat without the kidnapper realizing and killing the cat. So now, we have a clear goal being established and clear stakes. From here, how would we naturally subvert expectations while elevating our product? Well, one way we could do this is to have Bob get close to the kidnapper, obtaining some final clue that unlocks the kidnapper's identity. And then, the kidnapper reveals to Bob that he's been watching him the whole time, and that if he doesn't blow up some embassy, he'll kill his cat. This elevates the stakes without ignoring them. The gist is still do X for kidnapper or cat will die. Just realize, would this be catnapper? Anyway, but now instead of it just being illegal activities, we're now going into acts of terrorism. The stakes have changed, but in the way that elevates what came before. The kidnapper now knows we're onto them and wants us to commit an act that will keep us in jail for life. But if we refuse, this little fluffy ball of goodness will die. Sure, okay, these stakes are very overblown, but you get what I mean. If you want to subvert expectations for your stakes, ensure that it doesn't produce a final product that is lesser, but rather greater. Or, you might be wondering why you've got Choo Choo Charles instead of Call of Duty. For the last segment in this video, I want to show a practical example of how to fix villain number 3000, to make Malachi, Songs of War's most forgettable villain, instantly memorable. And for an extra challenge, let's assume that David RB really wants to keep Malachi off screen. He's adamant. Even just hearing the idea of a main villain interacting with the hero before the final battle just gives him the shivers. He's not going to budge on it. Well, to put my money where my mouth is, I'm going to suggest just one change to Malachi's character that would cohesively fix a lot of the problems with the Magnorite arc and make Malachi more memorable with just one scene on screen. And that's by utilizing reversal. On paper, Malachi is the big, strong leader of the Magnorites who rules through fear. So to make him interesting, make him timid. Let me explain. The idea behind this is that revamped Malachi, similar to Igneous, grew up outside of Carthan when he was a child, and just like Igneous, fell into a love of reading books and the like. Unlike Igneous, Malachi came to Carthan when he was young, and when he arrived there, he fell into the peer pressure of other Magnorites, becoming just like them superficially in order to try and fit into their sheep-like mentality. And the way he gains power isn't just like any other Magnorite. He bribes officials, he lobbies the Carthan Parliament, and through twisting and bending the rules, he's able to reduce the Carthan Parliament to nothing but a proxy, because now Malachi owns all the power. Now that Malachi is in power, he continues to further what he thinks Carthan ideologies are by making hot-headed, seemingly brutish decisions against Cydonia. But he still isn't stupid, he plans. He knows that a war between Carthan and Cydonia would be unwise because of Carthan's dwindling resources, so he decides to take out Cydonia in one fell swoop by digging a tunnel straight to their capital and blowing them up from within. This makes that strategy not just a plot device but a window into Malachi's true character. This doesn't just make Malachi more than just another generic Magnorite, but it also sharpens his motivations, establishes a connection with Igneous, and sharpens his conflict with our favourite Magnorite. See, Igneous and revamped Malachi are very similar, and here they utilize the exact same trick to make them memorable. Throughout Songs of War Season 1, Magnorites are treated as dangerous, simple brutes with a short temper, there to be avoided. But as soon as we meet Igneous, we get a reversal of that expectation. He's nerdy, keeps to himself, is kind and humorous, and despises physical confrontation. That reversal keeps Igneous memorable, because either side of his character is honestly quite basic. We've seen his exact brand of nerdy pacifist so many times I can't even be bothered to name them all. Netsuki has almost the exact same personality as Igneous. But the fact that this is contrasted with our expectations make him far more memorable. This also makes Igneous and Malachi parallels of each other, and makes Malachi's reason for fighting him far more complex than just, "You will see how real Magnorites debate." Suddenly, the conflict between Igneous and Malachi becomes personal to Malachi himself. Igneous represents who Malachi truly is, the version of himself he's had to hide and suppress in order to be accepted in Magnorite society. But, unlike Malachi, Igneous has stayed true to himself. And this journey is about actively fighting to stay true to who he is, in spite of who he is meant to be because he is a Magnorite, which is a direct reversal of Malachi's struggle, fighting to become who he is meant to be as a Magnorite in spite of who he really is. This means that, for Malachi, killing Igneous represents more than just a fun little battle with this weak Magnorite. It means the ultimate suppression of his true self, advancing towards his overall goal of becoming the Magnorite that everyone wants him to be, which makes him want to fight Igneous and make their conflict all but inevitable. It also makes the fight's unbalanced nature rooted in character, because obviously Malachi should win against Igneous pretty quickly. The longer the fight goes on, the closer Igneous gets to death, the more tentative Malachi is. He's struggling with battling his true self, and he truly doesn't want to kill him even though he believes he has to. If he talks about this to Igneous, that'll make this fight way more memorable. Just take Conquest vs. Mark in Invincible as an example of what I'm talking about. On paper, throughout the fight, we see Conquest as just another Viltrumite, a guy whose only real quirk is that he enjoys battle, and that he'll take any opportunity to fight because it brings him joy. And that's not a quirk of Conquest, that's a quirk of all Viltrumites. And even then, it's not a quirk that's unique to them either, this is literally Battle Beast's description. The only reason Conquest is memorable is because the show knows to make use of reversals to quickly make his character interesting. He's a strong Viltrumite who enjoys blood and battle and appears stoic and bloodlusted. Make him deeply emotional and lonely to the point where he's so numb to connection that he can only really open up to the nearly dead, shortly before he finishes the job. This is the reason why Conquest is so memorable. Sure, the fight between him and Mark is aesthetically pleasing, but Conquest as a character is memorable because these reversals make him interesting, which is exactly what you want when crafting your villain. If your villain isn't engaging and your conflict isn't memorable, then you don't end up getting a final battle worthy of the name, but two pieces of cardboard scrabbling it out while everyone watching falls asleep. If you fail to take these lessons into account when crafting your story, you're not walking away from the keyboard with Return of the King, you're walking away with Jade Eyre.